Well, good afternoon, everyone.
Sarah, I'm not sure if you were talking. I wasn't able to hear you on my end.
Benson.
I think I was picking you up on one of the other microphones in the room.
Hey, Sarah, you're good. Sorry about that. I think we've got everything squared away. I wanted to let you know that Chair Benson will not be able to attend the meeting tonight, and we're still waiting on Commissioner Tack and Commissioner Patterson. And I see Commissioner Tack is joining, so that gives us a quorum to, oh, perfect.
I think I have it figured out.
It was a rough start tonight, but we're good.
I don't know whether we're good or not. I can't get this thing unmuted. Can you unmute me?
I can hear you.
Oh, you can.
Yep,
You can't see me though, huh?
that's correct.
Now you can, huh?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. I restarted my computer and all the settings are off.
Vice Chair Liu, without Chair Benson, then I'm going to ask you to chair the meeting tonight, please.
Okay, I will try to do my utmost best on this. This will be my first time doing it, so if I get lost along the way, I'll just ask for some help. So I'll let you get started with the call to order, or do I do that, Sarah? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, you would normally do that. And if you like, I think I can bring up the agenda if that helps to follow.
Certainly, certainly. I also will look for that myself. So it's the call to order for the Sustainability Commission meeting of March 28th, 2022. And we go ahead, is that fine? And we go ahead and start the Pledge of Allegiance at the start of this meeting. Hello?
Yep, I'm gonna.
Okay, waiting for it to bring it up. Okay, no problem. All right. So we go ahead and we start the Pledge of Allegiance. Is everyone ready? Do you have your mics off, please, or on. Yeah, you need your mics. You're right. Turn your mics on. Thank you. So we can hear you. And we'll go ahead and do the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
flag
of the United States of
States
America
America,
and to the republic
republic
for which it
for
stands,
for which it stands,
one nation,
under
under
God,
God, indivisible,
visible.
liberty
with
and
liberty and justice for all.
justice for all.
Okay, great, fantastic, thank you. We'll go ahead, next on the agenda, I believe is the roll call. So we will start with, let me see, the roll call here on the list is our Chair Benston is absent. Vice Chair Liu, present, obviously. Commissioner Romero.
Present.
Okay, Commissioner Tack.
Present.
Commissioner Patterson.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So we got that far. The next thing that we will look at, so after the Pledge of Allegiance, we open the meeting for public comment for items that are not on the agenda. This is the time set aside for public comments for items not on the agenda. Public comments may be provided in a manner as prescribed by, okay, at the top of the agenda. The total time for comments are normally, I think it's a 2 to 3 minute limit. What is the limit, please, Sarah, that's allowed for that?
3 minutes.
3 minutes, 3 minutes per commenter. So do we have any members of the public who would like to make comments?
There are no comments.
All righty. Okay, wonderful. So we next move on to the meeting and an approval of the minutes of meetings for the February 28th meeting. So we will do, trying to adjust my screen here. We will do, sorry?
I'll move to approve the minutes.
Okay, alrighty, so you move
I'll
to.
second.
Alrighty, the minutes are second. Are there any objections, or we have a call to approve and a second? No
I'll go ahead
objection?
and do a roll call vote on them.
Okay, go ahead.
Vice Chair Liu,
Approved?
Commissioner Romero,
Aye.
Commissioner Tack,
Approve.
Commissioner Patterson,
Yes.
Alrighty, okay, very good. So it's unanimous approval of the minutes of the meeting, of the past meeting from February 28th, our last month's meeting. And so next on our agenda, we have two presentations. One is from Terry Chechen, who is the street maintenance supervisor on bike lanes. And the second is from Brooke Bairn, who is the director of communications and marketing on city branding. So I will let Sarah take us through those presentations. Thank you.
thank you. One of the items on our work plan is to increase the bike lanes per the plans from Complete Streets and things like that. And one of the people who's really instrumental in that is Terry Sechin. And so I asked him to come and talk to you tonight about how that works a little bit and to show you kind of where we are and how far we've come with that. So he has if you'll give me a second here, Terry, I'll pull up your picture and then we'll be all set to go.
Sounds good.
All righty. So good evening, everybody. Like Sarah said, my name is Terry Seachin. I'm the street maintenance supervisor for the city of Indio. And we are looking at an exhibit that Sarah put up that shows in yellow all of the bike lanes that are available within the city of Indio. So welcome everybody to the meeting, and I'll just go ahead and get started. One of my tasks as a street maintenance supervisor is I get to project manage several CIP projects that benefit our streets in more ways than maybe what you see as far as the new asphalt or the new slurry. And one of those is the implementation of the bike lanes, which is what I'm going to talk about. In the past 3 years, the city of Indio has installed approximately 14 center line miles of bike lanes as part of the initiative called Complete Streets. And we actually plan to add another mile on Dr. Carry-On later this year with one of our upcoming paving projects. Bike lanes have been added throughout the city in an effort to create a network of bike lanes that enable bicyclists to ride at their preferred speed, whether it be for exercise or as their primary mode of transportation. In most cases, the city has used existing roadway dimensions to accommodate the new bike lanes, meaning we basically changed the dimensions of the existing striping, and with the existing roadways are able to add the bike lanes. So typically the new bike lanes are installed after a resurfacing, such as a grind and overlay or a slurry. After the new surface is laid down, we install the new striping design, which includes the bike lane striping and the new bike lane signage. And that's pretty much the process. That's pretty much all I have to say. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I'll pass it back to you, Sarah.
Terry, I have one question. Do you, before the festival, do you sweep the streets that go to the festival, like Avenue 48th and Monroe, up to 50th and 50th?
We're paying special attention to the sidewalks and streets. Today we had the sweeper out on Jackson. Last week we had the sweeper out on Monroe, and yeah, all of those perimeter streets, the streets that take you out to the festival, will be sweeping here in the next couple of weeks. We sweep streets at least monthly, so they should be being swept anyways. But we'll be paying special attention to them. Sorry about the noise in the background.
Tara, if you don't mind, I have a quick question as well. So the moving out the bike lanes and actually moving forward with a complete streets plan is based more on on the schedule that you're resurfacing streets?
Correct. So the city's obviously has to be proactive, and so they look for streets that are good candidates that would accommodate the bike lanes. So there's enough existing width there to put the bike lanes in, and then the city hires an engineer that designs the striping plans, and so then we're prepared. So then when the asphalt comes up in the maintenance cycle, we're able to then go ahead and with that new surface, because you guys have probably seen before, sometimes if we grind the striping up, it kind of leaves a conflicting scar in the road. So we want a brand new slate when we put those bike lanes in, so there's no confusion on what is the striping and what isn't.
Got a question for you, and I will apologize for having mispronounced your last name, Terry. I did do a really bad job of that. So the timeline for this, I know I did see that there was a grant for bike lanes given in, I get it, maybe 2 years ago or so. So is that included in here, or is there more to come?
No, that actually, that's Avenue 44. And the interesting thing about Avenue 44 is it was one of the couple of roads that received a road diet, they call it. That's where typically what we do is because you can't reduce the number of travel lanes that you have because of the volume of traffic. So we try to make the travel lanes, make everything fit and keep the standards in place that we need to have for the speed limit and for the type of volume that's on that road. Avenue 44, like I said, is a road diet. So what we did there is we actually, because of traffic volume, we're able to reduce one of the travel lanes and then put in street parking, and then also have the bike lane included as well. And then that one also, a couple ped crossings were put in because there's some areas where folks were having to cross the street to get to their residence. And so it's a mid-block crossing is what they call it. And so you've probably seen those where you see the little pedestrian and then the flashing lights, but it's not at a intersection, like a typical intersection where there's the signal. So those were also implemented.
Okay, great.
I'm not sure. So from your point of view, and I'm guessing this is probably going to be a question more so of that depends on what funding's available. Do you have an anticipated timeline for when all these future planned bike lanes are going to be completed?
I do not. I will talk to the city engineer or maybe the director of public works, and I could follow up with Sarah. So maybe she could have that information for you guys at another meeting. But I'm not aware of a forecast of when some of those future segments, some of them might require more construction than others, like where we would have to widen segments of the road and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm not sure about that, but I could follow up.
Perfect. And then unless I'm missing it, it looks like Highway 111 is not included here.
Correct. The only segment of Highway 111 that has bike lanes, and if it's not highlighted on there, then it needs to be updated, and I'll go ahead and ask our GIS coordinator to do that. But it would be Highway 111 from Jefferson to Madison has bike lanes, but the rest of it going eastbound throughout the city of Indio does not have bike lanes.
Do you know if in the future those are going to be planned for, or is it not seen feasible at this point to maybe incorporate those in?
That's a good question, and I don't know the technicality answer to that. I've wondered that too. So I'll also make a note to ask that question as well, and then follow up with Sarah.
Perfect. Thank you, Terry.
You're welcome.
Okay, Sarah, I think it's back to you. Thank you, Terry.
You're welcome.
Sarah, are you there?
I am. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Terry.
Of course. Thank you.
So I've been talking for a little bit about rebranding the sustainability plan and pulling that all together. And all of that came about from Brooke Berry, our Director of Communications and Marketing. And she's going to give you a presentation about the new branding, kind of how it came about, and a little bit about some of the department branding as well. So Brooke, you want to go ahead and take over?
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. Can you see my screen okay?
Sure can.
Yes, we sure
Okay,
can.
terrific. I really appreciate the opportunity. So thank you, Sarah, and thank you to the commission for allowing me to take part in your meeting today and explain some of the history and the background for why we're going through this process. So what we're calling this City of Indio takes center stage. And I'll go through a little bit of why we decided to go through this branding initiative. A part of it was to create some consistency across the departments and also our partners. So this will have not just a cohesive tone and a cohesive image, but it will allow us to kind of marshal our biggest resources, which is the community and our community partners, and provide a framework and guideposts for outgoing city communications, inspiring confidence and pride, bring awareness in the Coachella Valley and beyond, and also provide a platform for economic development, which was very important for our team here, driving economic diversification. And specifically, we wanted to project the city's message of competitiveness. And that wasn't just for business and retail, but as I go through some of the research with you, you'll see why we felt like this was a necessary next step for us as a city and a responsibility really to our residents in order to provide them with all of the resources that they deserve. Our branding process consisted of stakeholder and community education, insight gathering, and research that will all lead to brand action ideas, some of which I will present to you this evening. As part of our research gathering and our insight gathering, I want to thank you all because I know that some of you were involved in some of the 1,300 unique inputs that we received through this process, either by partaking in a study on AuthenticIndio.com, filling out a poll, either online, in person, attending one of our stakeholder meetings, participating in a one-on-one, or responding on social media. Ultimately, as you see there, 1,300 unique inputs, which also consisted of more than 300 people participating in out-of-market research. What we found, some of it was that Indio is unique for its history. That is something that we are all familiar with. Also that we are best known for our festivals, but also amongst those in the Coachella Valley and people in Indio too, there was a concern about whether or not there was a crime here. As we know from our latest numbers, actually, Indio is seeing historic record low crime, but that's not necessarily the perception. And also internally, so amongst those who perhaps live in, go to school in, or do business in Indio, we were perceived as lesser than others, as if we do not deserve the same opportunities as other cities do in the Coachella Valley. However, perhaps more importantly, we were able to capitalize on some of the opportunities, and those were our diversity. Indio is socioeconomically, racially, from an education perspective, the most diverse city in the Coachella Valley. Also, we are home to the Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival, which is an international event plus Stagecoach that more than doubles the population of our city. Also, we have a lot of room for growth. So those were some of the insights that we saw and opportunities we felt like we should better capitalize on. Through the result of all of that research, we came up with this approved DNA platform statement. So that's basically boiling down all the research into one very long sentence. For those seeking 360 days of sunshine and opportunity in every direction, Indio, the traditional gathering place and largest city in the Coachella Valley, bears the fruit of cultural exchange and youthful energy, showing you that your growth and prosperity belong in the desert. So really, I like to say, what is a DNA platform statement? It's what does all of that research mean? Who do we think we are? How do we project that message of competitiveness to the whole world, also to ourselves, to people who would want to invest here, people who already live here, people who would want to live here? Who are we as a city? So strategic positioning options, we tried to look to that DNA statement and say, okay, what do we do with that big, long statement? How do we move forward as a city now that we know who we are, which is what we have been for many years, just kind of distilling it into one sentence. This allows the City of Festivals to live on as a moniker, but also alongside a more pointed value statement. All of these things that you're seeing here, ownable points of difference. We are the youngest, most diverse city. Also, we are the largest city in the Valley, and we have the ability to stage big events. We saw through our research that, for example, of the 13 people who said that they had attended either the Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival or the Stagecoach Music Festival, that 10 of those people said they had never been to Indio. So what does that mean exactly? They thought they were either in Coachella or they thought they were in Palm Springs. Obviously, they are not. So let's take a look at the creative decisions that came through our value statement there. The new logo, maybe some of you have actually seen it already. It has made its way onto a couple of billboards on the I-10, also onto our street pole banners, and in some limited degree to things that you might have seen around town. When I talk about a cohesiveness with the brand too, what we felt like was that there were a lot of different ways that we were projecting our image. We have this one that's been around for a very long time, actually decades, even though the city has grown since that time. This has remained the same. We also have this other one, which is what I call our fun logo. And a variant of this has been used for the sustainability department and division for a long time. But there are different ways that we're projecting the city. There's also another logo. I had an example of it, but I can't find it right now, but I'm sure many of you have seen. It has a high heel and a tamale and a record player, and a Ferris wheel, and pretty much the whole kitchen sink. That's very difficult to duplicate. And it's something that just says a lot of things about who we are. So here we go. Indio takes center stage. Let me walk you through kind of how we got there. And if you want to take a look at the letters too, you can see it has this fun, it has this festive feeling, which pays kind of tribute to Indio's agricultural roots in those white sort of rows that are down the center, or I like to think of them perhaps as train tracks or train ties. The notched edges of the shape is unique. It was made specifically for us here in Indio, and that maybe looks like tickets, like maybe concert tickets, or also ribbons, streamers of some kind, and then the colors too, bright and vibrant, reflective of our community, and also cultural diversity in so many different ways. That strapline takes center stage, still has a nod to the city of festivals. We will always be the city of festivals in the same way that New York will continue to be the Big Apple. Chicago is the Windy City. However, how can we move beyond the city of festivals? We saw in 2020 what happens when you're the city of festivals and there are no festivals. Obviously, we are still something beyond that. So take center stage also works very well with economic development, and it's kind of springing off of the city of festivals. So we'll continue to see all of them. This is the color palette. It's very vibrant. It allows us to move beyond the colors that came back most frequently. And what color do you associate with Indio the most often? That color was actually brown. That would make sense. Desert, sun, rocks, date, palm, trunks. But we are obviously more than that. I just wanted to show you some of the logos in comparison so you could see the City of Indio logo. And we just talked about all the ways that we are different. And yet there are certainly some things here as you look at all the logos side by side that show how similar we all are. Palm trees, mountains, sun. However, when you look here, you can see that really no other city could spell out their city the same way as we've done here. It would be difficult to see one of the other cities using the same colors, using the same font as we have created here. This is a sample board, something that you would see frequently when you're getting Indio literature. This is what we call a look, and different ways that we can play off of it. In the City of Festivals, we put the spotlight on you. Here are some examples of the logo in use, and in limited capacity, we have actually started to do that. And those of you who I met at our employee event might have gotten to take a little bit of that home with them. But if not, you'll start to see the logo in use in other ways. And I wish I had just bear with me for a second here, those of you who have not seen it. And please, the next time you're at the city, I also sit here to cover up my bookshelf. I'll be getting some actual furniture tomorrow, but we'll have some stickers that we're already getting out, some magnets, and some shirts are in the work too, just so you can kind of see the way that it's used. A Public Works, for example, on the trucks. Flags have already been ordered. They're going to be starting to be flown at city facilities soon. We're working on some signage. And then this was an inspirational idea for a sign, which actually City Council has approved. And so this is just a rendering, but this is the location of where that signage will actually go at the corner of Miles and Smyr in downtown. So as we build up that downtown area, turn it into a pedestrian friendly, walkable location, you'll be able to see the back of the signs from Indio Boulevard, but most importantly, you can safely take photos and commemorate your time in downtown Indio from that sidewalk there in the front. And as a side note there, those who will be attending the Coachella Valley Music and Arts and Stagecoach Music Festivals will also get an opportunity to get up close and personal with this sign too. You might have seen it already on street pole banners. This is an example of something that could go in a billboard. And then I just wanted to bring you through some of the departmental logos, the different variations of it you might see. This would be for a more economic development as we were trying to put the city out there. Indio Water Authority will be coming into the fold. They're a department within the city of Indio, and they will be looking like this. Economic Development has a logo, the Senior Center, the Teen Center, Public Works, and Sustainability. So Sarah has already started the process of putting it to work on some things. These are the compost exchange buckets or beer buckets, as we like to call them. Use them whatever you want for, but they are reusable and they're not made of plastic, which is very important. I wanted to tell you a little bit about some implementation of the brand right now, because really the brand is more than just a logo. What we want to do is put it in play, put it to work throughout the community. This research told us what we already knew, but now we need to reinforce it. As you saw, the research also showed that there was this perception of being lesser than, and we know that we are the Valley's largest city. We have not just in geography, but also in population. And we have the ability to do big things. Now it's just, we've got to get behind that and show it in the community. So as part of this implementation process, we went beyond logo, we went beyond colors, and we said, okay, how do we live this? And we focused on 3 specific areas: downtown events and revitalization, the festivals, and also, this is where you all come into play as our brand ambassadors and some of our best champions for the city of Indio: beautification and sustainability, also known as Keep Indio Beautiful or Indio Lindo. So how do we do this? How do we take what we have learned from our research and this branding opportunity and capitalize on it, not just for sustainability, but citywide? That's by leaning on some of our community partnerships. So from the marketing perspective, it would be the Chamber of Commerce. It might be Desert Sands Unified, the library. But some of your most common partnerships in the sustainability arena are also with Burtec and Riverside County. Right now, we're working on a hazardous waste drop-off that's coming up in April. Sarah is working on the Burtec pamphlet for the year, and there are a lot of opportunities to take our sustainability logo and what we're trying to do with sustainability and infuse that into our existing partnerships with Burtec. That mailer that goes out to all of the communities is really a terrific touch point, not just for the city, but for the brand and what you all and so many other people are doing with the city, by putting it at banners, at events, and by doing branded item with retailers. So For example, reusable or bamboo utensils or to-go bags. And I'll give you some examples of how we can do that. And also another example of how we can really live the sustainability brand would be working with our school district. I talked about Desert Sands. We have 19 schools in Indio that are part of Desert Sands. That's by far and away more than any other city within the school district. So partnering up with them and teaching them about the science beyond keeping our city sustainable and keeping our city clean. So when I talk about branding at events, so this might be something very similar to literally just putting our logo on a wall where people can come and take pictures. Maybe that's a banner that we hang somewhere at events. It could also be coming up with a Indio sustainability bag that we provide in partnership with local businesses. So say, for example, people spend a certain amount at a local business. We create a bag that we can use that says City of Indio Sustainability. And we work in that particular business's logo as well. And we create a bag that we provide. So the city, the merchant doesn't have to worry about providing a bag of their own. They have now entered into a partnership with us. And as part of this, we're giving out some reusable bags. Another example, and this is from another city too, Johnson City in Tennessee. They have also partnered with a local restaurants where they put their own logo on, say, a to-go box. So we could think about recognizing and applauding those local restaurants or businesses that are using cardboard versus plastic, and coming up with a way to brand City of Indio sustainability along with the restaurant themselves. We have a lot of existing initiatives that you work on the commission and that Sarah works on, activities and responsibilities. So we want to identify all those locations where we do touch the community. So for example, in an annual report or in the newsletter, maps or apps where we can make sure that sustainability takes center stage, and also integrating sustainability into parks and wellness projects. Some of those examples might be coming up with air quality projects. For example, when we are doing murals, Rome talks about pollution eating paint, making sure that sustainability is working with the arts department, and then we can promote the different ways that we're not only beautifying the city, but how we're doing it sustainably. Sarah has been working on SB 1383. That's certainly an opportunity for us to use our sustainability prowess and creating a campaign around something that every city in the state is going to have to comply with. How can we think about sustainability and a partnership as that Civic Center storm drain project continues? That's a way of recapturing some of the groundwater and allowing it not just to go into the channel, but to recirculate into our groundwater table. The waste and recycling app, an example might be that we call it the second app. You'll see a lot of this branded language infused in other projects that we do. And that was one that was suggested for sustainability. Mixed medium and shade artwork. So when we're doing the Jackson Street grant, thinking about how we can use sustainable or recyclable materials and then really live that we are beautifying, but also making things shadier, which means that we're reducing ambient temperature and also creating a better environment for people who want to bicycle or walk as opposed to get in their vehicles and producing more greenhouse gases. This is another thing that I saw that I thought was pretty interesting too, about creating shade structures that are also beautiful. This is taking place also in Europe, and but just another way to talk about how do we really step up our game in terms of relating our brand to new projects that you are working on and that Sarah and Public Works are working on. You might have already seen it. When I talk about the things that we're doing already, this is very simple. It's literally just putting a logo onto something that we do already, but thinking about how do we take it to the next level at these particular events. How do we make sure that people recognize this as a concerted effort on the part of city staff and our community to be more sustainable? And also another opportunity is always to contribute and urge people to get involved with Indio Live. This is digital, so we are not printing things. That is saving the environment. We are not causing another thing to be going through the mail. And also it's an incredible platform to communicate with people in this city about some of the projects that you all are working on. Another way that we have incorporated our branding into things that we're doing already is through our Second Saturdays events, Second Saturdays Center Stage, and also Indio Certified Market at Town and Bliss in downtown Indio. So if you're thinking about ways to move the sustainability plan forward, these are some additional events and places where we can capture audiences. We saw there, I just want to go back a little bit. We talk about some of these partnerships. For example, Desert Sands Unified. When we are doing science events at schools, not only are we educating people about our plan, but we're getting them introduced to the brand, and then they get excited. They get excited about sustainability, and they get excited about being part of a city that cares so deeply for their health and well-being. So that concludes my presentation. I'm sure that you have some questions, and Sarah, I don't know if it would be an appropriate time to take that, but if there's anything else that you would like to weigh in on, since Sarah did ask me to share some of this with you, and she took a look at the 95-page report that accompanied this, and felt like it was worth sharing with you all.
Wow, I can only say absolutely fantastic. That's my general response. And I'll let folks ask other questions because there's so much content there. And yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, it's hard to give people a thumbnail version, but that's all we kind of have the bandwidth for most of the time. But as I told Sarah, I would be more than happy to share that entire report with you when we're able to really quantify what we have the ability to do. But this is really meant to be an exercise for you all to get inspired and to work on projects as the commission and move forward some of the projects that I know that Sarah has been working on.
Thanks, Brooke. I got more out of it the second time than I did the first time.
So do I. So do I, Jerry.
Yeah.
Sarah, do you want to add anything?
Just that I think that Vice Chair Liu is being a little bit modest. She has asked me or talked to me a little bit about doing an outreach plan, which I think is a really good idea. And it might help kind of bring us more into focus with this and how we might use it and give us a timeline and so forth. So thank you, Vice Chair Liu.
I have to thank Brooke. I think she just did our outreach plan for us. When I was watching you go through that, I'm like, wow, you nailed it. I mean, we need you to do you've already done the outreach plan for us. It seems like now we just have to do it. I don't know if I'll let the other commissioners go first with their questions, please. Any questions? Commissioner Patterson, Commissioner Romero, Commissioner Tack, no questions? Okay. My question is, you might not be here when we get around to it, but we had talked about and that was just not myself, about the sustainability plan, doing an outreach event to engage people. And as you were going through that, I was beginning to think of a whole new way of things that we probably don't even have all the time or, to do in terms of manpower. But I think I was thinking of it, I don't know about the other commissioners, in terms of bringing people in, but what are your thoughts on, based on what the whole analysis that you've done, what would you think would be the most effective way? Should we be bringing them in or should we be going out? What are your thoughts, please?
I don't see why we can't be doing both of those things. We talk about the events that we have already, the sustainability events. I think another one is going to be in May. That's an opportunity where we already know that people are going to be there. And so that would be an example of bringing people in, and where it becomes more than just an event where people drop off material, but perhaps there was even a staging area wherein we invited other people to be there and to kind of amplify what was going on there. I don't know logistically, I don't want to throw more things on Sarah because I know you guys have it down, but we could also be doing outreach and going out to these other groups that are already having events. For example, Desert Sands Unified, they had a terrific farmers market a few weeks ago where they had all the students from all their schools there. Wouldn't it be helpful for us to do something there and do projects with the kids along the way where their own farmers market ended up being the culmination of some sort of additional project? So I think that you could really do both.
Right. So Sarah, now I'm a little bit confused on the dates because one of the questions I had was upcoming dates. And Sarah, when did you event dates? It's not on the agenda, but I did have questions on that. When do you want to discuss that? The dates of events.
We're going to do those under item 8. Commissioner.
Okay, so I'll table that for a while. Okay, so thank you for that. And last question before you go, if we want to bring people in, now going out, of course, would be somewhat new, for us, at least for me as a commissioner, but it might be the more effective way. But to bring folks in to this meeting, do you have any suggestions for us, please?
To the actual sustainability commission?
Yeah, to our monthlies. Or even a special meeting, yeah.
Sure, I think as you start to get the sustainability brand out in front of people, people will start to identify the commission with these projects. So if you're messaging about some of your events, you could also remind people that there are opportunities to get involved every month via those commission meetings. So you're already doing outreach on some of these events, just, bring people into the conversation.
Got it.
That way.
Okay, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. Yeah. Okay.
Just, as an idea, but the more you all start talking amongst each other, not in a Brown Act violation kind of way, but through these meetings, you will really see where people's strengths and weaknesses, what you have the time to do, and how you can help other people get involved simply by making them aware of what you're trying to do.
Cool. All right. Thank you. And I have not seen the entire document. I would love to see it. Sounds like Commissioner Tack has seen it, but I have not, so I would very much like to see it, Sarah. I don't know about anyone else.
Yes, I will. I have shared that with Sarah so she can circulate it amongst the commission. And also, as Jerry, Commissioner Tack actually saw a variation of this presentation to a different audience with different intentions. So
got it. Okay.
But thank you all. And if you have nothing further, I'll let you continue, make your way through the agenda.
Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Sarah, anything else? That was the end of the presentations. So that takes us over to the next agenda item is the sustainability plan. Did you have any concluding action items on the presentations before we go to the next agenda item? Sarah, anything you want to emphasize in terms of follow-up on those presentations?
I think the only thing that I would mention, I know that you haven't seen the report yet, but the report actually has a whole sustainability component to it. It wasn't just a logo for sustainability, but some ideas that Brooke talked about and partnerships that I think that, so the idea, or what I would really like to kind of put together, is that this branding and our outreach and our initiatives to make a more sustainable city are really all just buried together. They really are connected. And it's important to, when we get a chance to look at that plan and see some of the ideas that they have, and their ideas are a way of bringing out the branding. And yet when we do our own initiatives, we need to bring that branding forward as well. So it always has to be connected. And once you read the plan, you'll see that connection, I think, a lot clearer. And when we move forward with everything we do, that branding is going to be really important. And also in bringing, as Brooke said, the connection between what's going on and this commission, and then bringing people to the commission. You're still muted, Vice Chair.
Apologies. So as a follow-up on that, I think I did that accidentally. On that, you will be sending us a copy of the plan and I don't know if anyone wants a copy of the bike lanes document, but I'd at least like to see that. Please let Sarah know if you'd like to see that. Okay, so we'll move on to agenda item number 6, which is the return to the sustainability plan. We're at version 10, and that is, Sarah, that is your agenda item.
Yes.
So I'll let you cover that.
Correct. I meant to bring this back as a voting item. I thought we were pretty far enough, except for the branding. As you can see, I did update a lot of that. We've got the new coloring through most of it, but there were a couple of things that I felt needed a little more attention, and that's why it's not a voting item now. I talked about the partnerships last time, and I changed the focus of the scope more to limitations. You also brought up local risks, so I started to add that information in there as well. And then Vice Chair Liu had sent in her items for number 8, a kind of a question about how do we keep a schedule and milestone about activities. And I've been really focused on keeping this as a kind of a broad plan, but the reality is it's our work plan as well from year to year. So I wanted to add into the back a table and more or less some notes. Let me get down to that really quick. That is going to be cleaned up, and ultimately it just lists what is in our work plan now. And then we're going to be able to keep tabs on how far we're moving with them. If something comes up that we stop working with them, why, so that as things change, as they always do, we can kind of have a track of what we've done, how far we got, whether or not it was accomplished. That way, at the end, we can list accomplishments a lot easier. We can track everything we're doing a lot easier as well. And these won't go into every annual plan, but this will go into the 2022 plan, and then it will get filed. So if a project gets dropped for whatever reason, and we want to think about doing that up or picking that up in in a future year, we can go back and look and see where we were and why it didn't go forward then. And keeping track of all of that in a more work plan-based chart, I thought was very much worth adding to the plan. So again, I know this is taking a bit longer than we had really anticipated, but I think that these changes from all of your comments are really worth it. And I feel like they make it a much better, not just a much better plan, but now a much better work plan as well. So we can really track what we're doing. And I think that's an important aspect of it. So I need to finish this and incorporate a few more things. But once that is all done, the plan is to bring it back to you as a voting item next month, which would be April. And then if we can, and then we'll start talking about when to take it to the city council. Probably if we can get this voted on and approved in April, then it could be as early as May to take it to city council. But these are the kind of updates that I felt like were really worth it. And so I don't have it as a voting item tonight. It's just not ready. But when it is ready, it's going to be much better because I've incorporated a lot of your ideas and comments again.
Okay, wonderful. Any question from any of the commissioners? Any questions? No?
Just want to thank Sarah for all her hard work on this. It looks like it's coming along great, and really happy that we are able to incorporate some of the recommendations, policies, and things along those lines.
Great.
Great.
Yeah, good job, Sarah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, much appreciated. I agree with that. All righty, so that will be version 11 of the sustainability plan, and we will vote on that we anticipate being able to vote on that at our April meeting. So moving on to the next item on the agenda is the EV charging station incentives. And I believe that is your agenda item also, Sarah. We're not sure whose it is.
Yes, that's on our work plan as well. There's a couple items in that area for increasing EV chargers or recommending policy for EV chargers. We've had a few discussions about it, of course, in our previous meetings. I was able to attend the webinar on evaluation of policies for electric vehicle charging infrastructure deployment. This has a lot of good information on the value of grants and incentives, and also a little bit about policy as well. So I'll send that out to all of you at the end of this meeting. I also did a little work to look at what was out there, and there's quite a few incentives and out there, as well as one from IID, which is a $500 incentive for a level 2 home charging kit. So if you were going to put a level 2 charger in your garage, then they would have a $500 rebate for you, or some component of however much it cost, up to $500. So there's a couple of those out there. And I was trying to figure out how to put this together, considering our last conversation. Chair Benson had really brought up some good points about what does it mean? What are we trying to do? What does it look like when we do deploy EV chargers? So I thought, what we need to do really is kind of write it up in the same way you would do anything. If you were going to make a policy recommendation, if we come to that, or if we're going to ask for the possibility of incentives and how we use the AB 2766 funds to bring up or to bring more charging stations to the city, that we need to write it up correctly. So the background, why, I can fill that out very well, and that there's EV chargers help with air quality, which is one of our high risk issues here in the Valley, as well as lowering greenhouse gas emissions, which is of course a high priority no matter where you are, but certainly here as well. So we would write up that background, and I can do a lot of that. And then we need to know where we are now. map the current chargers in Indio. And I may ask Terry if we can add that to the map that he has of bike lanes. We know that plumbing is required in the 2019 building codes. So we know there is some plumbing out there. It costs approximately $7,500 for a level 2 commercial charging port with 2 ports that can charge basically 2 cars at a time. If you want to, if you're a business or even a resident and you have that plumbing and you want to actually add that charger, you do need to come into the city and have plans and submit for a permit. You have to have all the electrical information, and there is a charge, and the fee is based on the valuation. So I'm trying to narrow that down a little bit more, but it's a little complicated to do that. So I'm working on that. We know that IID offers some rebates. I know there are more up there or out there, and I think that this part needs to be written up into a current kind of a map as well. And so that if we take anything to the city council, they can really see the steps that we took, where we were and why. But one of the things that I feel like is missing here are those goals. We're pretty vague in the sustainability plan about increasing EV chargers, and that may very well be enough. But I did want to ask you to take some time to think about specifically what kind of goals you think you might want to see, because that might help us in deciding which way to go. I wrote down some vague options to find out more about grants, the revolving loans that Commissioner Romero spoke about, what kind of incentives, education is an option, or is there a policy recommendation that would come out of that? But I'd like to ask you all, if you would, to give some thought about the goals to this. I'll write this up as well and send it out after the meeting, so you can kind of look at that, but I'm going to ask your help for that. And the idea behind this is, once we have this document put together, that if whatever we take to city council or whatever we choose for our options, that we can justify and we can build buy-in for, and we can explain in a way that isn't just, we just thought chargers would be good, you know? And that's what I would like to build around that specific work plan item. And as much as your help with that would be appreciated.
Well, Sarah, one of the things that you might just in the background be thinking about solar as it ties to this, because that's going to be one of the first questions, I think, when you look at your specifications and your application, is the consumer or our residents may go, what happens if I have solar already, or what do I need to do if I have solar and want 2 chargers? So you're going to probably have to, somewhere in that process, you're going to have to recognize solar and be prepared to answer some questions that go in that direction.
Thank you.
I think along that same line of thought of as to the capacity for solar energy or any clean energy, is that as great as EV are and electricity is in terms of powering vehicles and zero emission, if you're burning coal to produce that electricity, it's still amounting to some emission on the front end of it as opposed to the back end of it. So definitely trying to make sure that in messaging, we're clear as to if a charger is being powered by renewable energy, solar powered, wind power, whatever it has, if we have that information available. And also, I believe for a goal, I think it's very important that we try to increase accessibility in areas where it's currently not an option. Specifically, I'm thinking of multifamily housing, where they may not have the option to have an electric vehicle because there's no charging infrastructure in their apartment complex. And as you said earlier, if 2019 was where that ordinance for plumbing was put into place, some of the older buildings probably don't have that capacity yet. So also acknowledging that might be another barrier that we should be looking into, is what does it look like to create that infrastructure for multifamily housing, specifically in terms of the cost of that plumbing as well.
Well, the main cost will be for the transfer from 100 amp service to 200 amp to carry the load for we had 2 chargers, the 2 ports. So that'll be the major cost. And then you've got permit issues on a multiple family structure on whether or not who owns the electrical panel. So there'll be other issues in there.
Thank you. This is all very good, very helpful.
Yeah, I would say that I would think that, you know, the educational component of it is going to be the first hurdle for residents. And I'm thinking, and I'll research it or ask the folks at AQMD if they wouldn't, because, you know, we don't have the capacity to do everything ourselves, and they've just built that huge facility. Well, I guess that's from Mobile Sources over in Riverside. So I'm thinking that those folks would have the budget to, you know, build, or probably they've done it already, to build some content, because for me, you know, I'm just thinking everyone else is like me, you know, we don't even know what level means, or, you know, how to even get started. Getting started is the hardest part. And before we even think about the cost, you know, what direction do we head in? So something very, very, very simple and educational to get folks on there. I don't know if we can work with the car dealerships is who we work with, or if we work with AQMD, but I can look at those options. I saw online there's this website called evconnect.com, and it gives you a listing of some of the incentives, a statewide, a SCE Charge Ready 2, Southern California, LA, that must be LADWP, that's not for us. And then there's one in Northern California, but there's Southern California. Yeah, so maybe it's the utilities that would have that training thing, but it's just bridging that information gap to get residents from where they are sitting in their homes to that information, just helping them down that pathway, along with along with helping them figure out the incentives. And let me ask this also, because it seems like a rather you know, technically detailed project. Which departments within the city would be shepherding this through, Sarah? Is it just your department?
It depends on what part of it. As far as the permitting and all of the information that goes with that, it would be building, and I really wouldn't have much to do with that.
Okay.
The education, that would be all of us.
Okay. Right. So I'm thinking, well, when you say building, does that relate back to the planning department? So Commissioner Romero had made a comment about requiring, you know, similar to the apartments, and you know, we have the charging stations over at Walmart. We have some by Home Depot on Avenue 44. So when folks go in to permit these new facilities, can we add a requirement there that they evaluate, not that they put them in, but that they at least evaluate the feasibility of installing a charger that just gives them a box to check? You know, I mean, if they want to pencil with the box, that's their business, but at least they stop for a 5-second pause in getting their permit to evaluate that potential. So would that be the planning department or building and zoning, or what?
I think you might want to start with the mandate for solar that came from the state, and then you go to planning, and the original intent from the state was for single family residents, not multiple family at all. Because that became too complicated, because who owns the roof, who owns the electrical panel, all of those things are very complicated. So the original intent was for single family residences only.
Yeah.
So before we get into something that is beyond what the state even has mandated, I
Mhm.
think we ought to stay with single family residents. And what you can start is with the plan that came from the state for solar, and then you go to city and planning, and they'll tell you what the code requirements were that they have you build into a house, a single family dwelling, to handle EV charging, which is part of the solar mandate, not part of the EV mandate.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Commissioner. Yeah, I agree. So, yeah, I would just say we keep going, since the education part of it would be in our court. We can certainly, do a little bit of research and share whatever our research is. Do we just forward those comments to you, Sarah? Any information we collect on this?
Yes. What I'll do is I will send out that outline, and
Okay.
anything that you find that can help fill that in and make it a little more descriptive, and just add information in general that will help us in the end to look at kind of what you're talking about. How we should move it along, what incentives, what ideas, as you were just talking about, might be appropriate.
Yeah.
Sarah, when in the presentation you were discussing some fees that are associated with the installation of these chargers, I think more so for commercial than for residential. It may be both, I'm not entirely sure, but based on the presentation, I assume it's commercial.
It would be both, but it's based on valuation, so it would be much smaller for a residential charger.
Is that fee? Are those fees from the city, the state, utility?
They're city fees. You would pay them to the city to get the permit and have the inspections and go through everything that it needs to make sure that it's safe and up to par.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions? So in summary on that, Sarah is going to send us out that information, and we should provide whatever feedback. And it really sounds like I have a two-part approach. I agree with Commissioner Tack that, as he suggests, we should perhaps, I guess, place our hopes behind and our emphasis behind what is already mandated by the state for the homes for solar, because as Commissioner Romero says, if we are just going with, gas is what, 60-70% of what we're burning now in California. So it's much better to go with solar for this EV, the link to solar. That makes a more compelling case for EV as we present that. So if we get back information to say, but we definitely would not neglect necessarily the commercial or applications of those in retail spaces. We're not going to say, we're going to let them off of the hook. Even for travelers coming through, that's really mandatory. If I'm driving in here to Coachella and I'm coming in on my EV, I'm not at home anymore, so I want a place to charge my EV when I come here. So we have a parallel path to go along. So that will be good. We'll look for that when you send it out, Sarah. And we have item number 8 is the next agenda item. We'll move on to that if there's nothing else on the EV charging station incentives, which are comments. And I'll start by asking directly for comments. So I'll go left to right on my screen. So I'll ask Commissioner Patterson Any comments for this meeting, please?
No, I don't have any comments tonight.
No comments today? Okay, that's fine. You can always add some as we go along if you need to, would like to respond to anything else. Commissioner Tack?
No, I'm fine.
All right, no comments. Commissioner Romero?
Yeah, just want to touch on, Sarah, last week you sent out the Transformative Communities Climate Plan for the city of Indio. As I mentioned the last meeting, that Act 6 cycle round funding is available now, as well as the active transportation ATP round 4. And I apologize for not sending some of that information out, but it seems Indio probably already has plans for both of those, more than likely. So I was just wanted to request similar to what we had today from Brooke and Terry, a similar presentation from either the grant writers or departments for those plans, and see how we may have some suggestions or anything along those lines, if that's doable.
Yes, for the TCC plan or the implementation part of it, the city is working on a submittal. And at the next meeting, I can have the grant writers come back and tell you all about that one, just like we did with the Clean California grant, to get an idea of what projects that we'll be submitting for. The ATP, I'm not as familiar with, but I will find out and at least find out where that is, and just an overview of if the city is planning to apply for that.
Perfect. And just final comments on the sustainability event. Myself and my girlfriend went, and we were just impressed with how well organized it was and how quick everything and effortless it was. So just a great job from the staff who put that together, and Sarah for the planning of that.
Thank you. There were about 183 cars that came through that day, and I don't think it backed up very much at all. So we were.
Not at all.
Thank you.
Okay. So I guess I'm the last person on the list for comments, and I had a couple comments or questions from the previous meeting. Well, we talked about the outreach plan and funding. So I guess the only remaining item on that I had is to talk about upcoming. I wanted to get a better sense of upcoming events, because I'm pretty sure I'm getting a little lost with our events. I know we have Earth Day coming up on April 22nd, so I wanted to find out what we have for that, planned for that. We have Coachella coming in, and Mr. Sechin, I think I got his name right this time, Terry, talked about dusting of the roadways, but I'm just curious, since this is my first year as a commissioner, do we get involved in it's kind of a little bit late now, because that's April 15th is when Coachella starts, and then Stagecoach starts on the 24th. So anything other than Earth Day, Coachella, and Stagecoach, any thoughts on that, Sarah or commissioners?
Well, just to let you know, the city has already pressure washed all the sidewalks for people walking to the festival. And like he said, they're going to re-sweep the streets, and they'll provide all the traffic flow and coordination. So Jim Curtis is taking care of that. It looks like I've looked at the plan, looks pretty good. So I can just maybe share with you that they've got it handled.
I think for the Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival, they do take care of most of it completely in-house, and they do a very good job of it. Maybe in the future, I can see if one of them will come and talk to you about their sustainability efforts at Coachella and Stagecoach, because they are quite extensive. Earth Day, we're still working on. Normally, we haven't done an Earth Day event because it's during the festivals, in the early days, the city was a lot more involved in taking care of that. And as that has backed off, it leaves a little bit more information or a little bit more option to actually work on something for Earth Day. We may possibly do a cleanup event or something like that for Earth Day. That's a little bit in the works, or still in the works, really. The Clean California grant will have a kickoff press event. And once they know for sure when and where that will be, they'll send the invite out to all of you as well. And then I think it's going to be kind of incumbent on us at this point to come up with some more ideas to push this branding out. And as we talked about before for the outreach, I think an outreach plan is a really great idea. It's something I can start to put together and you can all help me fill in, but it won't be the plan like I'm writing now for the sustainability and the work plan, no more of an outline with actual dates and things like that that can really, that might really support what you're talking about and being out in these events and when we can actually make it so we can actually plan for them a little better.
Right. That'd be great. Brooke mentioned hazardous waste pickup. Did she say May or March? March is done.
April 30th.
April 30th. Okay, so that's April 30th. So that would be something that we could, perhaps that's 4 weeks from now. Still a little bit, I'm sure we could get something. I guess you'd have to speak with, I guess it would be up to Brooke and her group if we could get anything ready for that. She almost made it sound as though she could. I don't know if Brooke is still here, or if she wants to.
Well,
I think
again,
you're gonna bump into the festival. And I think we need to focus on getting the sustainability plan to the city council.
Yeah.
So rather than go off in 14 different directions, I'd rather have Sarah work on the sustainability plan to get it ready for the city council. That's our number one priority. If we start diluting our efforts and going in other directions,
True.
we're not focused.
True. That is
So
true.
rather than add some more things to the calendar, I think we ought to stay focused with a sustainability plan and get it finished.
That makes great sense. Yeah, it would be nice to do it all, but we can only do so much. So if any outreach we're doing and so on, we probably ought to push that to after the April meeting and getting that done.
Yes.
That makes sense.
That'd be my recommendation.
I agree. And the 30th, to me, actually 4 weeks doesn't even sound like very much time to get things done. Okay, so we will look for those dates and try and come up with a cleaner list. I'll send notes back and forth. I guess we'll look at the meeting minutes as to what we have at the end, and that might provide us with a relatively clean list to look at in terms of being timely once we get past, as Commissioner Tack says, once we get past getting the plan approved. So that is the last agenda item. So which is item number 8. So item number for the commissioners, is there's item number 9, which is staff items. So I'll turn that over to you, Sarah, please.
I don't have any items tonight. Thank you.
All right, great. All righty, so with that, are there any final comments from the commissioners? Any final items? Any general comments? No? Okay, so I guess we can go ahead if there are no objections and no other items that have been missed. If I haven't missed anything else, I guess I can go ahead and I think we're early. No, maybe we're just on time. It's 7 o'clock. I will make a motion to adjourn if someone will second that. So.
I'll second that. Yep.
Ready.
You got,
Okay.
you got 3 seconds.
All righty, wonderful, wonderful. Well, with that, I go ahead and I will say that our meeting for March 28th, March 28th, 2022 of the Sustainability Commission for the City of Indio is adjourned. Thanks to everyone for attending and to the presenters for their presentations.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.